Sophia found a world of a stark contrast between the extremely wealthy and the just as extremely poor. Here, Sophia began to use her virtue to restore charity into the hearts of the wealthy. Thus began her solo journey to save the world she had found. Titus had found a world full of enslaved aliens that were forced to do the bidding of their alien overlords. Titus could not resist the temptation to begin working with the enslaved to gather the strength needed to overthrow their oppressors, exactly like he wished to do. Despite having reservations about the whole thing, Julius discovered a planet of anarchy. At first, he observed it and noted that, even in a chaotic, lawless system, they still had an inherent sense of being wronged, and even more interestingly, knowing they've wronged someone else. Julius found this world enticing and began working with the leaders of the various groups that still formed and governed their groups as well as they could. The fact that these people did have a sense of a law system gave Julius the perfect opening to begin his worldwide transformation. Cassius discovered a world of drunks whose entire world revolved around alcoholic drinks. The people there all had a serious hankering for a drink due to their constant indulgence. Cassius found this world to be exactly what he was looking for. Unfortunately, Cassius knew that was going to be the toughest thing he had ever tried to do, to try to get that entire world to, at the very least, begin moderating how often and how much they drink. Quintus wasn't even sure what sort of planet he would be looking for, though he was quite familiar with what it was like to not prepare for the future through his interactions with his fellow guardians during their time on Earth. With that in mind, Quintus began seeking out planets full of disorganization and found a somewhat advanced planet. Yet just with the briefest of study into their people, Quintus could tell that they should be far more advanced. He had found his world. Maximus sighed, saddened at the loss of his fellow guardians, but he knew that it was important to ensure that Earth didn't crumble into chaos after they left. Fortunately, it didn't, but that meant that Maximus was left with nothing to do but keep watch. He couldn't help but continue to hear Titus' words echo in his head over and over. "You're not going to seek out a new world?" Titus said repeatedly. Maximus grimaced and ignored it, but he couldn't help but wish that he had at least had a spaceship built for himself, just in case. Now, alone, Maximus would have to enlist the help of the humans he was looking after, and they were nowhere near advanced enough to build a sufficient ship. Maximus knew he had missed his chance to take to the stars. Years later, Sophia was making great progress getting the wealthy people of the planet she had found to grow more charitable. While she continued her mission, a star fell from the sky, but rather than burning up in the atmosphere it stopped. Sophia instantly knew that it wasn't a shooting star but a visitor. She cautiously approached the landing site, but as soon as she saw the spaceship she knew it was a friend. A fellow guardian. "It's good to see you, but what are you doing here?" Sophia asked. "After I helped overthrow the oppressors on the planet that I found, I headed out in search of another. But what I sensed instead was so troubling that I felt it necessary to bring the group back together," Titus replied. "What I sensed was evil emerging on Earth once more." "Maximus can stop it. It's what he stayed behind for," Sophia said. "What I fear is that he's been stopped by whatever evil has risen," Titus replied, causing Sophia to look back at him a bit wider-eyed than before. "I think we're needed back on Earth." "Fine, I think my effects will continue to strengthen here even without me being here anyway," Sophia replied, before she activated a beacon and caused her spaceship to descend from orbit. "Let's get the others." Back on Earth, unbeknownst to the other Guardians, over the years that the other Guardians had been gone, Maximus had been corrupted by observing mankind's actions and began absorbing sins. Maximus, with his ability to hone all virtues, was able to shift this into being able to hone the 7 deadly sins instead.